There are so many tools on the market to help you with marketing and content gathering and feedback and assessments and you name it. But what I want to share with you guys today is the Interact quiz tool. But more specifically, I was able to get one of the co-founders, Josh Haynam, to come on to talk about different ways to use quizzes across various industries. Like I said, he's the co-founder of the Interact Quiz Builder, and this is a tool that's used by more than 100,000 small businesses for creating interactive quizzes. He started Interact at the age of 19 and has been an entrepreneur and founder for nearly half of his life, which is absolutely incredible. You guys get to hear a bit about his path to entrepreneurship and the top ways that you can use these quizzes. I also share with you guys the very specific approach, the way that I sit down to utilize and create these quizzes for a fun experience for you, but also for good information to help drive my business forward so I can serve my audience and my listeners better. So come join me now for episode 119 of the Business Bites podcast.
Welcome to the Business Bites podcast, the podcast for busy entrepreneurs. Whether you're an online entrepreneur or seeking after brick and mortar success, this podcast brings you quick bites of content so you can learn and grow anywhere you are. Now here's your host, Rachel Brainke.
Hey guys, don't forget that my law firm, Eden Law, is having $500 off trademark applications through the end of April 2020. So this all the way through the end of April, you guys can take $500 off trademark applications, whether it's your business name, a logo, a slogan, you name it. We're going to help you protect your brand and save a little money. Now is a really good time if you have the cash to invest in protecting your business. Head over to eden-law.com, submit through the contact form, or give us a call and just let them know that you heard about this promotion on the Business Bites podcast. I will also be over there helping you guys work on protecting your business. Hey Josh, thanks so much for joining me on the Business Bites podcast today. I love Interact, I love the quizzes, and I'm thrilled to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rachel. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you that don't know about Interact, it's an online quiz building tool. You may have found me through the quizzes that I put on ads. You can also see them on the different business websites that I have. Josh is the co-founder of this company. So Josh, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey and how you ended up developing Interact.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting timing given what's happening in the world with COVID right now and the downturn of the economy as a result, because Interact had its beginnings in the last recession in 2008. I was in the middle of high school and my family ran into some financial trouble and I needed to start making money, literally to survive, to buy food and basic necessities. And I went to interview at places like Burger King and Little Caesars Pizza, and there was 40, 50-year-old people there who had lost their jobs trying to get these jobs that were paying minimum wage. And I really got turned down by literally everyone, probably 50 or 60 places I tried to work. And so I was kind of left with no options. And I knew how to cut lawns and install sprinklers and grass and things like that because I'd done it in my own backyard growing up. And so I started looking on Craigslist to find people and mostly found people who wanted to pay less than their gardener. So I started taking jobs at $10 to do a lawn that takes several hours in the hot sun of the Central Valley of California, which like 100 degrees plus. And that was my first taste of being an entrepreneur because I wasn't beholden to anybody. I could get more work if I worked harder. And I just loved the interaction of connecting with people and just kind of building up a client base and creating repeat clients. And from there, it turned into bigger jobs, much more than just mowing lawns. We would install lawns and whole sprinkler systems and irrigation systems, all that kind of stuff. and that actually built into a fairly successful company in the middle of high school. So I was like 16, 17 years old, and I would hire my friends and we'd go out and do these big projects and just do like week long kind of projects and all sorts of landscaping stuff. So that's how I got started as an entrepreneur. And then from there, it was really just kind of a whirlwind of different things. I bought and sold electronics for a while, ran an agency for a while, and then Interact actually spun out of that agency because we found quizzes to be something that was really effective. And so my co founder and I basically learned how to create a tool for creating quizzes. And that was our second year of college, third year. And then it's been 8 years since then. So yeah, it's been over a decade, more than a third of my life that I have been running my own company. I've never actually had a job, and really just it was born out of necessity, and now it's kind of a passion that I have for running a business in a way that's kind of aligned with my values and my team's values, and it's been a really really fun time.
One of the things I love about the quizzes, besides the fact, this whole story that it came out of hardship, you didn't have a choice but to create entrepreneurship and you ended up here. But I love that quizzes are so flexible. You can utilize them for a variety of industries in a variety of capacities, ranging from lead gen to finding out what your audience members like, surveys, kind of a feedback for content creation. Out of those, what was your intention initially when you created Interact?
Yeah, so the intention with Interact is really to connect people. And the pitch that I've been making for almost a decade now is that what we want to do is recreate the experience that you have. And the story I always tell is, let's say you walk into a coffee shop and there's kind of a leathery older person behind the counter who's been doing this for years and years. And that person stops you and asks you questions about what your preferences are in terms of coffee, what kind of flavors you like, when do you usually drink your coffee, how do you prepare it, all these types of things. And you are creating this really personal connection with the proprietor of the shop. And after you have this conversation for a few minutes, the proprietor of the shop walks over to the shelf and pulls down an example bag of beans or maybe a couple options and says, "Hey, these are the ones that I think match who you are." And your propensity to buy at that point is crazy high. And I've
Mhm.
been telling that story for 10 years now. And I actually went into Brooklyn Coffee Roasting Company just on a whim. I was running in New York City and somebody did that to me. They stopped me and asked me the questions, and it just validated everything that I had been saying for so long, because it really did feel like a personal experience. And I ended up with coffee beans that I loved. And that's the experience that we want people to be able to offer online. And as you move more and more things online, if you're running online courses or you have workshops or you're doing coaching or training, any of these things, the best initial experience is really to recreate something like that where people feel welcomed. They feel like there's a warm presence that you're offering them, and like you understand them. And if you're able to ask them questions that actually apply to who they are and where
Mhm.
they currently are in life and what kinds of things they're already thinking about, it totally changes the dynamic. You're not selling anything anymore. You're not pitching a product or a service. You're simply getting to know someone, and then you're able to offer up something that's helpful in a take it or leave it kind of way. Like you're not forcing anything. So that's kind of the broader vision behind what we are hoping to recreate through these quizzes.
What I love about Interact, and full disclosure, guys, I use Interact obviously, and I invited Josh to come on here to help give you guys these tips and introduce this tool because I use quizzes in such a variety of ways. I have it ranging from like a tax risk assessment so that my audiences in one specific business, the members, can see what is their level of tax knowledge, what is their potential risks that they're taking, all the way through just something fun of, what celebrity photographer are you most like, or what celebrity is your personality like. And it really isn't necessarily about offering content all the time. It's what, and exactly what you were just talking about, Josh. It's about delivering a unique experience. So I stand out by offering these quizzes amongst everyone else, but with the end game of drawing people into who I am. I'm able to inject my personality and then be able to provide them content and lay the foundation for them to for sales pitches and stuff later on, so they feel a bit more comfortable. What is your favorite type of quiz, or maybe the most unique one that you've seen done with Interact?
Yeah, my favorite type is really the recreation of that experience, right? So if it is for a coffee shop, it's, what coffee beans are best for you. If you
Mhm.
have a course on Pinterest marketing, then it would be what's your marketing style, or what's your specific secret sauce in terms of your way of doing marketing. And it's always this, like, what is your blank, or what type of blank are you, right? And you're helping somebody fill out their personality profile, which really taps into why quizzes work so well for marketing, because the number one reason is that people like to learn about themselves, and
Mhm.
self-discovery is a huge thing, and for good reason, because mental health and just overall happiness are very much tied to how well you understand and know yourself. So any quiz that helps somebody understand themselves better, particularly in the context of whatever it is you do, right? And that's kind of where those two things overlap really, really well. So in in physical products, there's a lot of stuff like what's your skin type, and then you can recommend products based on that. With digital products, it's really more about who you are as a person, and then they can match
Mhm.
up courses and workshops and that kind of thing to your personality type. And those are my favorite. The most unique, ridiculous one that I've ever seen, this just popped in my head, is somebody made a quiz about which vice president you are, but somebody had made a picture book of vice presidents with an octopus on their head. And I don't know why. It's just exists for whatever reason. And there's no way I would have ever heard about this other than the fact that it came through our system. And it was really, like, widely taken quiz, um, and just like absolutely ridiculous. And I'll never forget it. But quizzes do have massive appeal. We did one with Red Lobster way back in the day before we really existed, and I think it's still their most like Facebook post of all time. Had like 182,000 people like that post on Facebook. So just really, really massive appeal. And but everything comes back to the same concept of which type of blank are you, what type of blank are you,
Mhm.
where the blank is obviously like filling in whatever industry you're in, and that just appeals to people. And I would say 75% of the quizzes made on our platform fit that
Mhm.
same criteria of like helping people understand what personality type or what product or service matches best to who they are.
What I love is when I sit down and interact to create one. You guys already have template ones available that I can easily tweak, and I'll think to myself, what is my end game with this quiz? And that'll help determine like these different types that we're talking about here. But it's like, what is my end game, and how can I also demonstrate my personality along the way? But the other key piece for us is, how can we ask questions to gather additional information to kind of mine for what the audience is interested in. I'm in a unique situation in that a lot of my subject matter outside of this podcast are very heavy in legal information. And so a lot of it is my audience doesn't know what they don't know. It's no fun. So I really have to push to put personality and kind of see what their interests are, because it's not a very interesting topic, but the quizzes allow me to frame things like personality or just asking different questions, I'm able to kind of guide my own content strategy and output based on their answers. So it may not even be what the final quiz results are for them. That's, that's a good thing for them to take away, but the answers they're inputting, I can be very calculated in my questions to mine information that way, and they don't even realize that we're evaluating that data so that I know what works in advertising, what works in content output.
Yeah, and something that's really interesting that you can do, speaking to kind of the heavier subjects, right, is two things came to mind as you were talking. One is you could do a personality type that is how risky are you as a person?
Mm,
And that ties into legal things, obviously, because if you're much more risky as a person, then you probably need to be consulting lawyers more often. If you're more safeguarded as a person in general, maybe you are already doing a lot of the things that you need to make sure you're covering in terms of a legal perspective. And then the
mm,
other one that comes to mind is doing a personality quiz on who your audience is. So if you're helping entrepreneurs with legal assistance, you can do what type of entrepreneur are you? And then in the results, based on whatever personality type they are, you can recommend your products and services. But the
mhm,
thing that's really unique about what type of entrepreneur are you is that in order to understand that from your perspective, you need to be asking questions like, what's your biggest strength? Are you more of the
mhm,
logistical person, or are you more of the creative, free flowing person? And that gives you some really interesting information that you can use in the way that you craft all your materials, your follow up emails, your marketing materials, your, all these things. And there's these little nuggets of information that you can pull out. And I was just listening to a workshop that Shanti Zach did with AppSumo, and she was saying that she had a client who used to work for Weight Watchers, and they asked this question of what's your number one trigger food, expecting the answer to be like cake or pizza, and the answer for 80% of people was steak.
huh,
And Shanti was saying everyone has a stake in their business. Like obviously you have
mhm.
a stake in your business, but you have that kind of
I love
thing
it.
happening, right? Tell- um, where there's something that you may not know that could potentially be really, really important. And that's the kind of thing that you can pull out by asking quiz questions, good questions that get to know people. You can actually learn things about your audience. And the more you can speak to your audience and speak their language and speak to who they are, the more that you stop selling and you stop just
Mhm,
being and you start being just a friendly voice that is
mhm.
here to help. And if you're a friendly voice that's here to help, there's that quote, right? Like, if you want to get what you want, spend your life helping other people get what they want. And you, asking the right questions really allows you to do that.
And actually, in that kind of same mentality, we utilize at the law firm. So we have an intellectual property firm. We do a lot of trademark and copyright. And one of the things that we were finding out was that with creatives being in our audience, a lot of online entrepreneurs, they're quickly looking for attorneys or quickly looking for answers as to whether or not they have a case. Well, we were finding a disconnect between the time we could respond, even though we're very quick, and them going on to the next firm. So what we did with the quizzes is we allowed it to be a qualifier for them and for us. They could still input their information and kind of get this, yes, you potentially have a case, no you don't, but while you wait to hear from us, here's a landing, redirects to landing page of videos and so forth. And so it was nice because we were able to still be helping them there, even if we never ended up engaging them as clients, but through the use of the quiz, multifold. It was lead gen, we qualified them, we got the information we needed, but then the quiz taker, the potential client, was also getting they were hooked in and to get served additional information. So they still walked away from our website instead of just a random like contact form of we'll contact you. They were served, they still are, it's still on our website. They're served up with a page of text and video to talk a bit more about the situation they're in, and it tides them over and helps them until we can actually help them.
Yeah, I love that. That's a perfect example, because I would imagine that the number one question a lot of people have when they come to you is, do I have a case or not? And
Mhm.
going back to that analogy of sitting behind the counter, if you had, let's say this was before the internet and you had a physical location and people walked in and had questions for you, the number one question they would have is, do I have a case? And then
Mhm.
you would ask them the right questions to figure out if they do or not. And your quiz is literally doing that online. And you're totally right that, and even as I'm thinking through, things that I've had to work on in the past where I'm just trying to get a quick answer, if there's an assessment or a quiz that can tell me roughly where I land and then give me resources that are specific to my particular situation, it's so much
Mhm.
different than having to read through a giant blog post that shows all the situations, or watch a
Mhm.
video that talks through the whole thing, because now you're getting like 5 minutes of video content that is specific to you
Mhm.
versus an hour that talks about a bunch of different options and you have to weed through it and find the right thing for you. So the engagement is just dramatically higher, and you're actually able to be helpful in that way that you would if you were there in person, which you made a great point that it's not possible. Like, as you
Mhm.
scale things up online, you cannot be there in that way, the way that you used to be able to be if you started the way we did, and you had like 5 people coming on a day, but then all of a sudden you have 500 people coming on a day.
Mhm.
You can't offer that same level of experience, but you can get close by creating something that answers the most frequently asked questions.
Yeah, and what I love about using Interact for it is how easy it is, because instead of dumping everyone onto a main landing page, it can filter them through and redirect based on answer. So whether I'm doing a lead generation, capturing emails and delivering up content that way, or I'm doing an assessment slash qualifier like this, like you said, it's not dumping them onto one big overwhelming blog post or a page with irrelevant information. It's spoon feeding and giving them and serving them exactly what they need. And that's, like I said, that's one of the key things that I love about Interact, is how it has all that logic. You rank it through, and I'll put screenshots in the show notes for you guys. It'll be at rachelbrinke.com/, EPI 119. But you can see that you give weight to the different answers and you write up your different results, and you can redirect them to different pages, and it's just so user friendly. And that's one of my biggest things for this, is how there's like next to no coding. You just fill in the blank and it does it all for you.
Yeah, we do a lot of like feedback surveys, and we eat our own dog food in that way of asking people, for their feedback and asking good questions. And whenever we ask about the platform, the number one feedback by a wide margin, like a huge margin, is just how easy it is to use the tool. And
Mhm.
from my perspective, being a founder and having done, at the beginning you're doing like 7 different jobs, which it's really interesting to see that proliferate, because now that our team has grown, it's like, oh, there's literally people doing one part of what I used to do, and it's a full-time job and they're really really good at it.
Mhm.
And but then you look back and you're like, wow, I was doing like 9 jobs before.
All of
So
those.
right. And so what's your number one issue is not having enough time. And
Mhm.
so our focus, a massive part of our focus, goes into just making the tool easy to use and easy to understand, and helping people be confident in the content that they're creating. And so that's a huge aspect, because this is something that's new to most people. So the ease of use is of paramount importance from our end.
And just from a technical standpoint, I utilize it on my WordPress. So I know that it's copy paste code is pretty much can be used across the board in any website, correct? And also you have the direct link that you get to stick it onto social media.
Yeah, can be used on any website embedded through an iframe, which is just really simple. But a lot of people end up just linking out directly to the direct link. So then all you have to do is add a call to action button. It goes to the quiz, and boom, you're done.
Yeah, and brand colors, all that sort of stuff if you want to even mess with that. Yeah, I'd hardly ever build it from scratch. I normally take one of the awesome templates you guys have and just kind of tweak it from there. So did we hit all the big points of ways that you can use the quiz? I mean, lead gen, surveying. What was the other one? Oh, assessments, the personality quiz. What else are we missing?
I think those are the big ones. The big tie-in is that it's a recommender. It's a way to
Mhm.
recommend products and services. And I take customer feedback really seriously. So a big part of what I do is just checking in with people and hearing their stories and their experiences. And the number one thing that people are using this for is recommending products or services, whether you're
Mhm.
selling courses on health and wellness, or on how to become an entrepreneur, or do marketing, or do sales, or legal services, whatever it is, any of the above. It's really about being able to be there and recommend the right thing at the right time without having to physically be there.
And I love that, especially if you maybe have an e-commerce site or you offer a lot of services. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's an overwhelm of information and you can target them down into it. That is awesome. Do you have any last tips you can think about for our audience before they go out and set up a quiz and get all of this going? I guess for me, it's try to be as creative as you can. Get to know the audience member, like I was talking about, through being purposeful in the questions and the answers that they can choose from, so you can get more information than just their end result. But can you think of anything additional?
Yeah, I think it's also on the asking questions part. And there's a really nice framework that you can think about with this. And the framework is basically, if I actually was trying to get to know this person, what would I ask them? And get to know them in the context of your business, obviously. But if you stay in that mindset, it becomes much easier to ask the questions. I think it gets a lot more complicated and difficult when you're trying to like strategize and get to a certain outcome or whatever it may be. But if you really just let all that go and think about,
Mhm.
if I'm imagining myself sitting behind a desk and someone walks in, what am I asking them? What are they interested in? How can I figure out what they're interested in and offer up whatever I have as the most helpful solution to their current problems?
I love it. Well, guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you jump over to rachelreggie.com/EPI119. This is episode 119. I'm going to put screenshots of some of the behind the scenes, put a link out to interact, and also a little checklist of everything we talked about here. Also jump into the Facebook group. I'm going to be posting some of the different quizzes that I use. You guys can take a look at how I do it. Feel free to pull the text, go create your own, and good luck. Please use this. This is a wonderful tool to help build your business, especially right now when everyone is stuck at home and they're on the internet. Utilize the tools that you have, and good luck.
Thanks for joining Rachel on this episode of the Business Bites. For show notes, a list of recommended tools, or referenced episodes, you can find them at businessbitespodcast.com. Until next time.